Oh, wait, can you hear me now? Perfect. Oh my God. Wait, can you hear me now? Because it says the audio is working. I just can't hear it through my headphones because they're broken. Okay. All right. Everything's working now. Um, all right, we'll get into this first video. It's very quick. You can hear me now? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Goeiedag. Samenzweren. Conspiracy is het woord in het Engels. Samenzweringen in de wereld. Bestaan ze echt, bestaan ze niet echt?
Is this in another language?
Robert and the Wilson. Your latest book is called
Everything is under control.
Everything is Under Control. Ah, that is a reassuring title, so to at the second
Well,
album.
it depends on how you look at it. Everything is under control in English means everything is okay.
Yep.
Everything is under control also suggests that somebody is controlling everything.
I love his books. I just read Prometheus Rising by him. Uh, That's a book that if I do a review of, I'm gonna have to go through again. It's just it's all over the place, and I don't even know what to say about it. And I love it so much. But that's a book that I'd really have to sit down and plan out what I'm gonna say. So I'll eventually have a review of that. I'll eventually talk about that. But it's a tremendous book. It's called Prometheus Rising. You need to check it out. If you check out anything by him, check that out. I also have um his this is his most famous book, or it's actually a trilogy of books. I mean, it's three books in one. It's not that long, but I haven't read it yet. I'm working my way through a few things that I said I was going to read first, but I can't always pick that up.
Somebody
Yeah.
we don't know about. So it has a double meaning.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Are all conspiracies real?
Oh no, there are more imaginary conspiracies than real ones. People are very imaginative, more than you realize. People have a great talent for inventing imaginary conspiracies.
But do you believe in it? That's more important.
Well, I don't believe in anything. I think belief is the death of intelligence.
Listen to what he says here.
Once you believe in something, you don't have to think about it anymore. The more things you have firm beliefs about, the less you got to think about. When you have firm beliefs
The more you think about, or the more you believe in something, the less you have to think about it.
about everything, you don't have to
I
think
love
at
that
all
so much.
anymore. Then you're ready to join a cult or a religion.
That's an idea from Osho. When Osho asks what he believes in, he says, "I don't believe in anything." That was a quick one.
Victorious over chaos or randomness. If you take this seriously, you will look upon it as warfare.
Alan Watts was a 20th century British American philosopher born in 1915. He's renowned for his wit,
I think he called himself a performative philosopher. I think that's what he called himself.
eloquence, and success in translating and infusing Eastern philosophy into the Western world. Watts is regarded as being greatly responsible for the popularization of Buddhist and Zen principles in the West, inspiring the beat and hippie movements in the United States during the 60s and 70s, and causing major cultural shifts away from traditional Western values. During his life, before dying in
He I don't know, I've read his books, and to me, they don't stick with me as much as his talks. When he speaks, there's just like there's something in his voice that resonates. Whereas, like if I'm reading, I'd rather listen to Osho, or I'd rather read Osho. Like the paradox, the poetry, the language sticks with me more. Whereas Alan Watts is I don't know, it just doesn't hit me as much.
1973, at age 58, Watts published over 25 books and articles on various Western and Eastern theories, and was the first to write a best-selling book on Buddhism entitled The Way of Zen, published in 1957. Watts's unique ability to understand, conceive, and translate complex alternative philosophies into practical, digestible language.
The best thing about him is he explains it in a Western context. If you read the Tao Te Ching or the Tao Te Ching, however you say it, I'm not sure how to say it myself, but if you read it, it's not going to make sense. It's very abrasive for a Western mind because some of the concepts are very counterintuitive. Like one of the main concepts is the concept of no mind, the concept that when you calm your mind down, you have access to everything. Like in the nothingness is everything because what is a void? Isn't it just everything? Like how can we conceptualize these ideas in any other way? And especially for a more solution oriented mind, like think in school you've been taught to find the solution. In school you've been taught there is one answer, there is this, there is that. Whereas it's kind of a gray area and you kind of have to put it together with your imagination. You kind of have to put it together with like almost a creative, poetic sense.
Makes it clear why he is one of the most enjoyed and influential philosophers in recent history. Watts's interest in Eastern philosophy stemmed from his childhood enjoyment of Chinese and Japanese storybooks, as well as his affinity with Eastern aesthetic. He found that things like light, color, and nature were shown in profoundly beautiful and provoking ways within Eastern art, and he wondered what it was that allowed these artists to see and consider the world with such lucidity. Watts was born in what is now southeast London and was initially raised Christian. However, during Watts's developing younger years, he began to find that Christianity's methods of understanding and dealing with life left him unappeased, unfulfilled, and often with more problems than solutions. In Watts's mind, Christianity did not attempt in any real sense to answer things like what the true nature of the universe is, what the self is, what the meaning of life.
These answers have all been answered actually. It's just you really have to dig for them. A lot of the more esoteric principles from Buddhism, Taoism, any sort of Eastern idea, it's been already covered by Saint Bernard, by Saint Augustine, by various other Christian mystics. It's usually steeped in allegory and it's usually steeped in like hundreds of pages of stuff. Um, because I mean, to me, the Catholic Church has become more of a control system, more of a political system than everything, and it's unfortunate because it puts the emphasis on the church, it doesn't put the emphasis on the individual. Whereas, like, I mean, Nietzsche said it best. Jesus was the last Christian, meaning that every Christian after Jesus tried to worship him instead of tried to act like him. And that fundamental difference is where I think it goes wrong. If you see the lessons and the teachings and you apply it into your own life and you believe that you can do everything that Jesus can do because everything you can do through God, like that's a beautiful path. That's a beautiful religion. But if you worship it and say, I can never become this, that's where I don't like it because you're immediately putting it in your head that you're not perfect. You were born perfect and you were made the way you are. But we can work our way back up, but we all have this weird angst, this weird anxiety, this weird fear, this weird pressure, this weird force that is like stopping us from doing this. And again, these are very like I hate to use the word like esoteric topics, but that's what
Life is and how to deal with it all. Rather, Christianity appeared more interested in studying and maintaining history and remained firmly transfixed on the idea that there is some tyrannical like God figure controlling everything. This idea
that's not true either. Um, this is like a warped sense of things. Again, I really don't like the modern interpretation of a lot of the teachings. I think if you take it more as a metaphysical book than the historical aspect, sure, there's a lot of history in it. Sure, there's a lot of um, like everything ties into each other. Like it references it. Like I'm sure we've all seen the graph of like all the cross references throughout the Bible. Like it truly is a masterpiece. It truly is a work of art. But I think people fixate too much on the material instead of the spiritual. Like one of the greatest lessons in the Bible, and this is my interpretation. I'm sure there's different ones, but We have the story of Jesus saying, "Let he who hath no sin cast the first stone." What does this mean? Why is this important? Why is this significant? What is this telling us? What this is telling us is that how dare you judge someone else if you yourself are not perfect? When you're perfect, that's when you can go look at others, look at what they're not doing, and tell them they're wrong, tell them they're evil, tell them this, tell them that. Like, this is when you can judge people. But until this moment, you have no right because you have to fix your own house first. Don't throw stones from a glass house. Like, it's it's a really great ideology. And the best part about this is when you heal yourself, when you get to the place where you've forgiven yourself, where you no longer have any lingering sin, where you no longer have anything that is stopping you, holding you back, keeping you in guilt, keeping you in fear, like you won't want to judge people. Judgment is purely derived from an unhealthy conscience. No healthy mind looks to someone else and tries to bring them down. They might look to others with inspiration, but they don't look to bring people down. And this is the most beautiful aspect of the Bible. But like people just gloss over this and make it like a rigid belief system. It's not a rigid belief system. It's a system of purifying your soul. It's very weird how like I don't know, like autocratic it's been, like bureaucratic it's become, like I don't like how you have to go to someone to learn about God. You can learn about God by simply understanding yourself and simply understanding these lessons and these stories. But again, that's just me.
Of an authority figure controlling the universe was both unappealing and insensible to Watts. And so, in combination with his growing fondness and curiosity with the Eastern aesthetic, he would embark on his journey into Buddhism. What drew Watts further into Buddhism was that in Buddhism, rather than a tyrannical-like God controlling everything with some rational or moral intention, there is a universal consciousness of which everything is an interconnected and interdependent part of. A singular essence to life that follows its own nature with no boss. Every object and every person is merely an expression of this universal nature following the nature of itself.
This is what Emerson said as well. This is what Spinoza said. Even some Christian mystics said it. When you when you read the original, or this is actually in the King James Bible as well. In the first lines of no, it's not the first lines. The Bible in Genesis says God made Adam and Eve in his image, meaning it's both masculine and feminine, meaning that every human being has a piece of God in them. We're all made in his image. That means we have an aspect of him.
For the mere sake of itself. Watts found this concept to be far more reasonable, humane, and useful to the
Very weird
experience
how
of
like
life. As
materialistic
Watts would
it's
study,
become,
consider,
isn't
and
it?
practice Eastern
Because
ideas
it,
like
it
this
really
one, he
does
found
have
that
like beautiful spiritual aspects to it. Like out of everything I've studied, like I see the parallel in Christianity, but it's just not focused on. And it sucks because I think the greatest example of an individual, I think, is Jesus. I really do. I think it's the greatest example of how to live your life. And I think if you act more like him, if you live more like him, you're you're fulfilled. There's nothing else you could ask for. There's nothing else you need. But it's just so much about worshiping him instead of acting like him.
he experienced a certain bliss in their realization, often regarded as enlightenment or awakening. Life became richer, anxieties and fears reduced, if not disappeared, and peace and connection with nature blossomed. It was this that Watts wanted to share with the Westerner, an individual whom Watts felt deeply needed a way out, or in, depending on where he stood. With a distinctively diverse background and understanding of both Western and Eastern worlds, from a cultural standpoint, Watts found that much of the Western world was intensely alienated and conflicted, often obsessed with status, wealth, consumption, and success in being right or the best. Yet even when one was successful in the Western ideal of success, they still appeared to remain lost and disconnected from themselves, their fellow human, and nature itself.
This is the idea that like when I have this, I'll be happy. When I have this car, when I have this house, when I have this position, I mean, think about like the NFL players or the basketball players. They're like, I just want to win a championship. Then they win a championship. They're like, I want one more. Oh, I want one more. And then like, I mean, even LeBron James spent his entire career trying to catch up to Michael Jordan, and like he's still playing. I bet you if he had 6 rings right now or 7, he would not be playing right now. But like, there's something in his head that says that when I get to this number, I'll be vindicated. But the truth is, he won't be happy when that happens. There'll always be something new. There'll always be a new challenge, and you can't fulfill this desire, this need with material things. It's a spiritual lack. It's a spiritual like what's the word? You're searching for something spiritual and trying to replace it with something material.
Itself. The idea that a successful business, a new luxury product sold or bought, a higher status, a social power, or anything alike could resolve the human experience of isolation, anxiety, and vulnerability was exceptionally foolish in Watts's mind. Furthermore, it appeared that the Western religious idea of an absolute morality and an authoritative God did not really assist the Westerner in his or her ability to resolve these behaviors or help discover any
Again, these are just like I know this is what it's become, but I think these are just all bad interpretations of the faith itself. I think there's beauty in it, but it's been I don't know if corrupted is the right word. I think it's been subverted is not the right word. I think people have focused on the wrong things. And I think they've made it into something that is more digestible to the masses, but it really alienates the people that are much deeper thinkers because they're like, hey, this doesn't make sense. Hey, this doesn't make sense. But when you focus on the lessons, I think the lessons are beautiful. I don't think you can disagree with them, but
spiritual essence in themselves. Rather, it only further detached them from the physical and metaphysical world by making them a subject of everything instead of a part of everything. The principles of Zen and Watts's teachings diverge rather significantly. As humans, we have a very peculiar consciousness that is aware of what it is perceiving, and furthermore, identifies with its awareness. This self-identification is generally regarded as ego. And as a result of our ego, we tend to feel as though we are detached from what
your ego is just what society tells you are. It gets built up every single day. It solidifies how you project yourself into the world. It solidifies who you believe yourself to be. And ego is usually very far off from your true self. And this is where most unhappiness comes from. It comes from the friction of these two selves, the friction of these two entities. It's very weird how like we subject ourselves to what people perceive us to be, and then we expect to be happy. But really, what we're doing is we're living other people's lives. We're allowing what other people see us as, what other people believe us to be, to dictate who we are. And through this, our actions, our dreams, everything is shaped in that direction. And once you start listening to the true voice, once you start listening to your true self, this is when you can direct your life in a way that like you want to live. But until you get out of this ego driven mindset, until you get out of this um, basing everything off your sense of ego, you're always going to be living for someone else. You're always going to be living for how others are going to perceive you and perceive you in a better light. So like it's always going to end up falling short. And this is why the most successful people in the world still want more. Like, why do you think Bezos is trying to go to space? Why do you think Elon Musk is now getting involved in politics? Why do you think Trump got involved in politics? These people had more money than you could ever imagine to spend, but they still wanted more. They still needed more. They thought the power associated with these things, or the fame, or the recognition was going to make them happy. But the truth is, it won't. The only thing that's going to make you happy is finding out who you are, finding out what you really want, finding out the activities that you do that you can lose yourself in. You know what I mean? It's like we all have something that when we do, it doesn't feel like work. We could do it for 10 hours straight and it's not hard. You know what I mean? Like there's days when I train jujitsu and I can train for 3 straight hours and I'm physically exhausted afterwards, but I didn't notice it while I'm doing it. And it's not just adrenaline. It's the idea that like I love it so much that it's not forced. When you go into work, it's forced. When you have to do an assignment, it's forced. When you have to do something you don't want, it's mentally draining. When you do something that you love, it's inspiring. You get more energy. Even if it's difficult, you have so much more energy than you would otherwise have. And this is what we need to put our energy and time into. And I know it's really impossible for most people to like up and change their lives and immediately switch and immediately flip the switch and like now you're living a perfect life. But like you can always do something each day that's going to give you fulfillment, that's going to make you happy. Even if it's just 5 minutes of meditation, even if it's just walking around the block before you go to bed, or maybe early in the morning, or going to the gym, or training martial art, or like we can all do something each day that's going to bring us like individual happiness. And when we do things for ourselves that makes ourselves happy, not for the sake of anyone else, that's where we start to figure out who we are. Like I don't read because it makes me smart. I don't read because it makes me have more content. Like I read because it's fun. I read because I like finding out different ideas from different people. I do all these things for myself. I don't do it for anyone else. I don't do it for any external motivation. The more you do things for yourself, the more happiness you have day after day after day. That's really the secret, but
we are
we'll get back
observing. That
into
if
it.
there is an
We're not
I
going
or
to get through
me
any of these videos
observing,
if I
then
keep just
I
going
must
off on
not be what I
tangents.
am observing. That my internal must be separate from my external. Watts would often refer to this as the sense that we are an ego in a bag of skin. However, in Zen and Watts' teachings, this concept and feeling is not only incorrect, but it is the source of most of our alienation, anxiety, suffering, and subsequent animosity. With the knowledge that we will die, that things will change, that stuff will dissolve, how can we derive any sense of meaning or connection to life by chaining our sense of self to these things? To our body, to our personal identity, to our stuff, to our status. One of, if not the most fundamental principle in Zen and Watts' teachings is the idea that attempts to resolve this problem. The idea that we are none of these things that we tend to identify with, but instead, we are everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is the basis of Taoism. Even if you're not, even if you don't believe in like um, grand connection, like Spinoza put it best that like everything that you see is form of matter. Matter can't be created or destroyed. So basically, at one point or another, we were all connected because we all started from the same source. So there is a connection. This is what Spinoza called his God, that the intertwinedness of everything, that everything was once each other. So it's almost like it's very weird. It's almost like a agnostic God or an atheistic God because he doesn't talk about God in terms of faith. He doesn't talk about it in terms of like a power or anything like that. It was more so like random, but it was interesting because I don't know. I've never read anything proving God so like strongly. Like I think even the strongest atheist would have to agree that like Spinoza's God is real, which it's very interesting. It's only about 30 pages if you want to read it. Just look up Spinoza on God. You'll be very wide. I think it was Albert Einstein that said if there was a God, it would be Spinoza's. Very interesting dude. I need to read more of him because I don't know his other stuff, but his take on God was super super interesting.
And everything is us. Human and nature go together as one, linked inexorably and infinitely. Just as noise can't exist without silence, just as light can't exist without darkness, our internal cannot exist without our external, and our experience cannot exist without our non-experience, or death. Everything needs everything else in order to be anything at all. Watts would often define this using the term organism environment, meaning we are not an organism in an environment, but we are an organism and an environment simultaneously. We are but a feature of the whole, and thus we are the whole. For Watts, the illusion that much of the Western world has and continues to live in is that our thoughts are exempt from the laws of the universe, that we have a separate.
So if you really understand Taoism, it's just what this is. It's not really his philosophy. He's just reciting it in a way that most of us will understand that like a Western minded individual would kind of grasp because the difference between the East and the West is the East is about inaction, inspired action, not working more than you have to, working smarter, not harder. Whereas the West is like grind out work. I'm gonna make more money than you. I'm gonna be more successful than you. Think about the American dream. The American dream is I'm gonna work so hard that I set up my family for generations. Like the East is really about spending time with your family. It's about doing things with your family. It's not about material things. It's much more about the connection. So
Separate volition detached from nature, and our thoughts and actions occur voluntarily and can impose themselves on nature. However, for Watts, the truth is that our brain and our consciousness are not exempt or separate, not from the cause and effect process of the universe, and not from the laws that everything operates on. Within the Watts and Zen school of thought, success in life is not to change the world or to make a certain amount of wealth or to surpass anyone in status or power or anything of that sort. But the ultimate goal and success in life is to become deeply synchronized with nature itself, to realize that your behavior is one with the behavior
This is what Plato said, know thyself. This is like a um you basically see this idea, this philosophy in everything. It's just it's said in different ways. But every great philosophy has some element of this idea right here. Like meditate with yourself and find out who you really are. You can find it in Nietzsche, Emerson, Taoism, Buddhism, um, some sects of Christianity, alchemy, Jungian psychology, um, Plato, like I just said, like basically every single great mind came to the conclusion that through understanding yourself, you can understand the world. When you understand yourself, the world doesn't bother you anymore. This is the like I vastly oversimplified it, but like it doesn't it doesn't need anything else than that. What I said, if you really think about it, is much deeper than the words I just said. It categorizes an entire way of life that if you encapsulate will make you supremely happy.
Behavior of the rest of the world. A person is in fact nature itself, and so a person cannot choose to change or influence nature, because even what appears to be a human effect on nature is only, in essence, a nature effect on nature. Which is to say, everything is just nature playing the game of nature, with us and through us. Like a river that flows without choosing to or how to.
Heraclitus, I think he was before Socrates or Plato. He was a very early philosopher, but he said you can never step in the same river twice. And this is the idea that everything is a constant flux, and who you are today is not who you are tomorrow. And it's the idea of going with this idea instead of resisting it. Most of think about consumerism. Like most products are like, oh, you're getting older, take this drug. Oh, you're getting older, well, wear this dress, it'll make you look young again. Oh, if you do this surgery, you can look young again. Oh, we'll give you a Ozempic, you'll be skinny like you were in high school. Like, think of how much is sold to people trying to cling on to the past. Think of how many failed relationships that people text their ex and they're like, why don't we get back together? Why don't we try again? It's like you're clinging on to something that's gone. And the more you cling on to something, the faster it runs away. It's like with anything, that the more you push, the more the other person pulls. Like it's very it's very weird how we don't understand that like there's this natural yin yang to everything. And the more you accept it, the less you try to change it, but the less you accept this idea, the more you're going to just continually put yourself in positions where you're clinging on to something, where you're trying to linger in something, when you're trying to think about what was instead of just be like, all right, it was over. I was happy in the past. Now it's over. It is what it is.
To. We humans move and act without choosing to or how to. We did not choose to be a human or the kind of human we are. We did not choose the conditions of the human body or mind. We simply express the nature of the universe through them. And the achievement of Zen is to flow freely without choosing, acknowledging that one is and has always been without choosing. To accept this and overcome one's ego is no small feat. It is to destroy one's sense of self-importance, which is, of course, very important to the thing that believes and wants so very badly to be important. But the irony is that perhaps what we think we want is not what we need. Perhaps thinking we are more or less important than anything or anyone is not all that helpful for the experience of life. Perhaps alternatively, realizing one's unimportance has the potential to actually open up the door to a whole new realm of meaningful.
When you break down every accomplishment you have and you understand that every day will be turned into sand, nothing you do will be remembered till the end of time. And like this is an inspiring fact because it means that you don't have to accomplish anything. It means you don't have to do anything. Like, isn't that a beautiful thing that you no longer have any pressure to become something? Isn't that like inspiring that like you can do whatever you want with your life? You don't have to, go to college. You don't have to spend your life trying to work your way up the corporate ladder to become a CEO so that your family is proud of. Like none of these things matter, man. None of them do. It's a very freeing idea, but so many people they hear these things and they're like, I don't like this, I don't like that. It's like if these ideas are something that are scary to you, you're too wrapped up in your identity, you're too wrapped up in your ego, and you're going to wake up one day and understand that like everything that I've worked for is not worth the time I spend with my loved ones, the time I spend with my family, the time I spend pursuing my passions. And I'm not telling you to go live in the woods and be a monk and become Henry David Thoreau and, write a book about your experience and talk about potatoes for like 100 fucking pages. I'm not telling you to do any of this stuff. What I'm telling you to do is don't put everything into the material. Don't put everything into your accomplishments. Save some room for the people that mean the most to you. Save some room and some time and some energy to the people that really matter. Like, how often do we tell our loved ones we love them? It's usually not until they're on their deathbed. Why don't you just tell everyone in your life right now how much they mean to you? Like so many people did not get the chance to do that, and you're going to sit here and complain about, I'm not successful, I'm not this, I'm not that. Like, you have so many blessings, and it's all just we wrap ourselves up in this fake identity that's not us. What really matters? The people that love you, or the people that judge you every day, the people that, you go into the office, and if you get a promotion, they're cheering to your face, but they're secretly like, what matters more? What matters more, being in a fancy car, an empty house, or a tiny house that's full of people that mean the world to you? What means more? I just want you to ask yourself these questions, because until you ask yourself these questions, it's not going to register. You're going to continue living the same way that you're living, and you're going to continue fixating on things that don't make you happy. If something in your life doesn't make you happy, it shouldn't be there. That's the ultimate lesson here. Like, don't put anything in your life that doesn't make you happy. Same thing with negative ideas. Like, the more negative ideas that you dwell on, the more negativity is in your mind. If you're being negative, I want you to drop whatever the fuck you're doing and do something else, because you need to understand. This is what Emerson said. I love this quote so much. A minute of anger, a minute of unhappiness is 60 seconds that you took away from your joy. Understand that. Like, you should never be unhappy. You should never be unhappy. Always find a way to spin it. Always find a way to find the joy in whatever you're doing. And if you can, drop it. Take a break. Go clear your head. Go gain some perspective. Go walk around. Whatever. It's really that simple. But
Mindfulness and enjoyableness. Like an artist in a state of flow, instead of forcing nature, we synchronize with it and perform life with fluidity and ease. Of course, Watts is not without criticism, nor are the Eastern philosophies that he communicated and derived many of his ideas from. It is reasonable to find some of Watts's teachings and translations to be either confusing or fuzzy, for he is up against a very difficult
it's supposed to be confusing. It's paradoxical in nature. This is why if you read the Red Book by Jung, or anything by Crowley, or anything that's more esoteric in nature, it's all poetry. It's in between the lines where the meaning is. It's not in the lines themselves. It's not something you can understand on first reading. It's something that you have to dwell on. Like, there's plenty of books that I've read that I don't need to go back through because I've gotten all the lessons already. You know what I mean? Like, I will never reread any single business book because it's so straightforward. Whereas Jung's Red Book is a book I'm going to have to study for the rest of my life to even grasp a tiny bit of the meaning in that book. And it's like, I I don't get that take. It's a weird take, but whatever.
opponent, be it the very thing we have been conditioned and wired to identify life with. Even for Watts himself, it is fair to say that the ideas he shared were not easy and did not resolve all the challenges of being human for him. According to those who knew him, he was not without struggle, inner conflict, or vice. Perhaps his take on life is accurate and complete, or perhaps it is not, and perhaps that is not the point. At this time in our evolution, we can only really speculate with the
Pretty sure he died an alcoholic. Um, he had a drinking problem, which is it really sucks because a lot of people that are too spiritual become um, like wrapped up in things. It's really a shame. It's really a shame because like the body wants to cope for the lack of materiality, so it kind of puts these ideas in your head. But
True nature of
yeah,
everything is. There's no
really just
answer at the back
speculating.
of the book that we can peek at when things get confusing. However, that does not mean that efforts and attempts at speculating and understanding our spiritual essence is without value. Perhaps it is not the exact accuracy of any philosophical idea that is important, but what the idea can do for us. For many, Watts's ideas and offerings have and continue to radically shift how they see and experience life in a positive.
See, the thing about Alan Watts is I would suggest people before they read the Tao Te Ching, the Tao Te Ching, any sort of these more Eastern ideas, would say go to Alan Watts, go to people like Osho. Um, you're not really going to grasp the concepts and they're not going to make sense to you because it's poetic and it's poetic in the sense of a way that you've never thought before. So like that is the beauty in Alan Watts. Like say what you want about his personal life, but he truly did bring these ideas and he brought them in a very digestible and very easy to understand way. And like for that you have to commend him. Like it was so weird. The other day um I don't know why I was watching shorts, but there was a short that came up and there was like an argument in the comment section. Someone was saying like, "Oh, Alan Watts was a fraud. He really didn't come up with any of these ideas." And it's like, first of all, I doubt he would care that you're saying this. I doubt he would care that these ideas weren't his. These were his interpretations of it, and he was just trying to share it with the world. And like that alone is a beautiful thing. It doesn't take away anything from him or who he was as a person. But um, yeah, I think I'm gonna end this now. I'm starving. I'm dying. Um, I'm gonna stream again tomorrow. Uh, I have a few videos I want to film tonight as well. So, with that said, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for being here. I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.